All right, this is the re-record broadcast of the Wednesday, June 24th, 2015 edition of the Global Reality with me, your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us. When I say re-record, I mean, well, I already did this show once. Yep, all hour and a half of it, too. And I was into it, and it was passionate, and there was lots of good stuff in there, and we had a software malfunction. Software glitched, hung up, locked up, and lost the file right when it was completed. Yeah, you can imagine my my displeasement with that. Well, I'm going to do my best to give you a replica of that show. It's very hard to, it's very hard to do a redo when it comes to that stuff. I've had to do this before in the past, and it sucks. But I'll do it. I suppose. But yeah, that really blows and puts me behind because then I've got more recent shows to do as well. So, plus working on the films. But I feel that what I talked about was too important to just let go. So this is the Wednesday, the re-recording of the Wednesday, June 24th edition of the Global Reality. Thanks so much for being with us. If you're listening out there across the web on the archives, the 128K Podbean archives, or the live stream, thanks so much for joining us. The 32K podcast that we have out right now. I don't know if some of you who have listened to that so far have noticed. I didn't know it was doing this, but I started noticing that the 32K podcasts are only like 48 minutes long. It's like they're cutting them or something. I don't know what's going on. Those shows actually have been longer than that. So if you listen to the most recent shows that we've done here on the 32K podcast, you haven't been hearing the whole show. So I've been putting those up on YouTube for now, but those are not going to be remaining on YouTube. I'm not going to be putting those up regularly. I'm just doing this for now until people get acclimated to the fact that we're back here and know how to find us, know how to find the live stream and the archives and all that stuff. So, but the good news is, if we will be playing the new shows. They will be streaming and repeating here on the regular basis on the stream, which you can find links to. Well, they're not up at my website right now. My webmaster's having some kind of internet issues or something, so I guess as soon as he's able to get those up there, they'll be up there. But for now, you can find them at our website. I'm sorry, not our website, our MySpace. God, I've been doing this too long. I can't keep up. I got used to so many years saying MySpace because we used to promote that all the time. Facebook, there you go. Fedbook, the Global Reality Radio Network Facebook page. You can find all the links to everything there as well. All the links to the 128K live stream and everything else all over there. But the website where this broadcast truly originates, theglobalreality.com. All our stuff is up there. You can find everything pertaining to our work. You can find all the place to download our films, all my films that I've made since 2007. This is our 8th year broadcast. We will have our 8th anniversary coming up in September. And since then, I've made 5 full-length films. Is it 5? Am I working on the 6th or 7th? I can't keep up because I got so many other ones I've started and not finished. 2007, I put out 9/11 New World Rising. 2009 was Secret Right Volume 1. Then The Secret Right Volume 2, then Lost Secrets 1, and then Lost Secrets 2. Okay. Anyway, those are all up there in the download shop. You can find those along with our audiobooks, the newest of which is Atlantis and the Giants. Very rare book. If you haven't heard that reading yet, definitely check it out. It's one of our best, I think. And it's up there for sale along with the download, so you can go and get yourself those. You can also become a member to our 128K archive, so you can ensure that you will hear the complete shows, not cut off versions, in super high definition quality as well up there, 128K. Get yourself a membership, subscribe to our archives. You can go by the month, or you can buy, up to a year at a time, even a lifetime membership. There's all kinds of options. And that's on the subscribe button on the top right-hand side of theglobalreality.com. Down below that is the monthly operating cost banner. We have until Wednesday. We need to reach that entire amount there to cover our operating costs for the month. And by looking at the numbers so far, it seems kind of like we're back to the same old crap again, and I don't want us to be. So everybody, please go there. If you've been enjoying the freely available shows since I've been putting them up, please help us reach our goal so we can keep it that way. That's the only thing we're trying to do here, is to keep it freely available. But if people don't contribute, and judging by our numbers and how many contributions we've gotten in this week, it's widely uneven. I mean, we're averaging 600 to 700 listeners a show just so far since we've been back. And, we've had 2 contributors this week. So, it's not going to get it done. And we're going to have to go back to the pay-only archive option, all that, and nobody wants that. So, just go there and hit that up, make your contribution so we can keep this thing freely flowing. Thank you very much. All the ways to support us are up there. You can also get something off our Amazon wish list to help us with our filmmaking, new computers, new cameras, gear for doing the soundtracks and all that stuff, which is really what we need right now more than anything else. So go up there, get something off that, and that'll be sent right to us. No fuss, no muss. You do it that way as well. I was mentioning my films. Second film that I made was the See You Right Volume 1 back in 2009. And I actually started working on the film and doing the research for it in 2007, shortly after I went on air, when I found out about this secretive right-wing group, the Council for National Policy. And it didn't take me long, within a couple of days of looking into this group, to start finding that so many people who were either members or connected with this group in some way were many of people that I had seen on or heard as guests on Alex Jones' radio show. Because yes, believe it or not, there was a time that, I kind of, like a lot of other people, thought he was legit. And then when I started my own radio show, 3 days into it, I interview Peter Del Scott. He tells me, I bring up the Bilderberg group and stuff, and he says, and the the CFR, and he's like, no, those groups are not near as powerful as this other group. And I go and start looking into this CNP, the Council for National Policy, and I start finding all of this insane stuff, stuff with people like Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America, who was a regular Alex Jones guest. This guy called openly for armed Contra-style militias, Contra-style death squads, to use his actual term, to patrol the streets of America. And all of this stuff, just all this info that they were trying to engineer and create a new civil war. And I had started warning people about this in 2008, and really not a lot of people wanted to listen. A lot more people have listened about this stuff now than they have in the past, but back then, not a lot of people wanted to. And I've been warning people, telling people, look, this is what's coming. This is what they're going to do. They're trying to engineer a race war. And look at what they're doing now. I mean, it's unbelievable the stuff that's going on since this South Carolina thing happened. It's insane, and it's all being engineered by the United States government. It's, of course, being done to try to whip up anger and get left versus right going before elections, get black versus white going. And they got nothing left at this point. They have no other option. This is the final place. This is the last thing they can do. The rats are trying to keep the ship from sinking before it goes all the way down. They're trying to keep themselves in power indefinitely, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. But this stuff is just, it's just insane. But I've been telling people it's been coming for years. And I said exactly how they were going to do it. I started saying back in 2008, I said they're going to start labeling anybody who is a conspiracy theorist as a terrorist and lump everybody into one category. And anybody who contends with any official story that the government puts out will then be deemed a terrorist from then on out. And there won't be any more argument. And they'll specifically blame people who are using the internet to get out information. And what have they been doing since this South Carolina thing happened? The media immediately, story after story. This is terrorism. This guy is a terrorist. We need to be calling this terrorism. Terrorism this and terrorism that, using that term over and over and over again. This is right-wing terrorism, they're calling it. And NBC News ran this story. White Americans are the biggest terror threat in the U.S. But when you read it, it doesn't even actually say that white people are the biggest terror threat. It says the New American Foundation found that twice as many people have died in attacks by right-wing groups in America than by Muslim extremists since 9/11. According to the study, 26 people have died from deadly jihadist attacks in the United States since September 11th, while 48 have died from deadly right-wing attacks. So I guess they're counting this from the point after. It says since September 11th. So what are they starting that from the day after September 11th? Anyway, the point is, I told you this was coming. They're already doing that with this guy, pinning him, saying, he spent time online looking at websites, and that's what made him get this way. I mean, the holes in this story already are just unbelievable. Obviously, this is another stage-managed operation. There's audio and whatnot I've seen going around the internet already of, Amazon.com and all these other outlets admitting that they were ordered by the federal government, by the Obama administration, to quit selling the rebel flag, Confederate flag merchandise. And, of course, with this supposed shooter, there's been all kinds of stuff that's come out. They've tried to pin him as, this is all racially motivated. Now they're trying to, use this Confederate flag thing, anything they can do, stuff that has nothing to do with the actual event to achieve other agendas. And this is how we know for a fact that they're doing it. I mean, the day after the shooting happens, ladies and gentlemen, you know who was the guest on Coast to Coast AM? None other than Mr. Death Squad's himself, Larry Pratt. What in the fuck is Larry Pratt doing on Coast to Coast AM? This is exactly what I've been telling you about. It was coming, folks. This is why they have ran off certain hosts and stuff over there from Coast to Coast. And they've been planning this forever. This is what I've been telling you. They even had the power to roll out their biggest mouthpiece that's been trying to get armed conflict and civil war in this country going for decades, Larry Pratt himself. He's been the one that's been he's been openly calling for this, using every outlet he can to try to get this going. And the first thing that happens after the shooting in South Carolina is within 24 hours, he's on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. The fuck does that have to do with Bigfoots and Nessies and fucking all that shit? Which, believe it or not, is the whole reason why people tune in over there. Now, I don't talk about that stuff and they allow me to over there, but I'm not calling for fucking race wars either. So it's clear what's going on, and this has been the role of these phony truthers and patriots and whatnot for years. They have been being set up, and this has been allowed to grow as big as it's gotten because they are trying to engineer not just one Oswald, as they engineered with this supposed shooter, but hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Oswalds, a whole side of Oswalds that will stand up and be the willing enemy combatant in a new American civil race war. And, this stuff has come out about this guy, this Dylan guy from South Carolina. Tons of pictures all over the web with him with his black friends, and all his black friends in interviews saying, this guy was not a racist. This is the last guy you would have thought would have done this. And then they've gone out of their way to say, oh, well, he planned this for 6 months. Well, let me ask you this. If he planned it for 6 months, the official story says that he planned it for 6 months and that he went into the church, sat in the church for an hour and did nothing. And then after an hour, just gets up out of the blue and starts killing people. Kills 9 people and reloads 5 times. I mean, and then it comes out that, of course, he's on the SSRI drugs and all this stuff. But that combined with the fact that he sat there for an hour, sat still, didn't move, didn't do anything, and then after an hour gets up and starts shooting people, that it's clear that he was under some sort of mind control. Because that's textbook for how it happens. Especially when these guys are programmed killers like Sirhan and Mark David Chapman, guys who are basically put under hypnosis, and have no recollection of even doing these shootings. They're basically under hypnosis when they happen. I think there's also been conflicting video coming out that this, somebody completely different than this even did the shootings there. There's all kinds of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, folks, they are trying to pit us against each other so we don't unite and go against them. They are the real terrorists. Government is the real terrorists. But they have to get us, the people, to destroy each other. So we do it for them. But luckily, even though there are some idiots out there, and there are always going to be idiots out there that are going to buy into this stuff, the good news is I've already seen from all the stuff that I'm seeing all over the web, people are not really buying into this. Some people are, but there are people out there of every color saying exactly what I'm saying right now. I mean, I've seen multiple videos where black folks are saying exactly what I'm saying. This whole shooting was a fraud, it was a hoax. They're trying to create a race war. I mean, how many years, white folks out there, how many years have they been telling us and programming us through television, media, movies, and everything else that blacks are the devil, blacks are evil. If you go through their neighborhoods, they'll shoot you or rape your sister, and they're all hooked on crack and they want to murder you. How long have they been telling us that? Now they're flipping the script, and now they're programming the black people and saying all white people are terrorists. All white people are racist. They all want to kill you. See, now they're pitting one against the other. And it's all bullshit. And they're using this, they're doing exactly what the phony government-controlled ISIS is doing over in the Middle East. They're destroying ancient artifacts and ancient cities to try to basically erase history from history. And now they're trying to do the same thing, associating the whole Confederate flag thing and attempting to basically erase history that happened in this country so people in the future won't know why it really happened. I mean, there's so many lies. You know, I mean, not the least of which is the fact that black folks were actually sold into slavery by other black folks. And also, the biggest slave owner in the entire South, in South Carolina, had over 200 slaves on his plantation, and guess what? He was a black man. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying those things because I'm trying to assign the blame of slavery onto one color versus the other. What I'm simply trying to show here is the truth that all colors have been involved in slavery, just like all colors have been involved in hatred of their other fellow mankind. All colors have been involved in this. This is not a black or a white versus anything. What this is really about is the fact that no matter what color you are and where you come from, you are a slave to their system. They are the ones we should be standing up against, not each other. This is the time when we should be standing with each other more than ever. Because that's exactly what they don't want us to see. We're slaves to the almighty dollar. We're slaves to their grocery stores that supply our food. We're slave to their gasolines. We're slave to their cell phone companies. We're slaves to the cable companies, to the mortgage company, to the electric company, to the credit card company, to the cigarette company, whatever it may be. We live in a modern day where our modern day slavery is worse than the slavery of old, because back then it was only assigned to one general area. Now it's everywhere and it encompasses everyone. And you got people who are walking around thinking that they're free when they're actually slaves. So it's much worse. But like I said, the good news is that a lot of people just aren't buying into it. But they are trying to get us to all think that each other are the enemy. I mean, all white people are terrorists, and everybody who is, who doesn't agree with the official government story on it is not only a racist, but they're a right-winger too. That old chestnut. And that's what they try to do. They try to assign, because they want to take every single person who doesn't agree with the phony Hegelian dialectic, the left versus right BS, and put everybody in a box. That's why in 2008, when I started finding out about this stuff with the Secret Right films that I made, I immediately disconnected myself, went on air multiple times and said, I'm not a part of this conspiracy, patriot, right-wing truth movement. And I'll say it again, I'm not. I've been here exposing this, trying to show you what they have been trying to do. They want to use this as an excuse to get rid of everybody who's considered a troublemaker. And at this point, if you're somebody who is trying to put out the alternative story and the true story of what's happening in our world, you are now considered one of those people. Me, you, everybody. Doesn't matter. That's why I have been disavowing myself from that stuff for many years, because it doesn't matter. But if you're against that and you don't stand with that Alex Jones whole and patriot movement, if you don't stand with that, by God, put yourself on the record, say it. Not because because it may have a chance to save you, but because it will show people, and there will be a documented piece of evidence to show people that they don't care if you don't have the same views. They want to take anybody and everybody who believes in an alternative viewpoint to history and the world itself, label all of us terrorists, and then justify our extinction to the rest of the general public. This is what I have seen coming, and it's why it scared the shit out of me, and it's why I made 2 films on The Secret Right about this. This is the reason, folks. It's here now. I'll tell you a story. Because, as I said, the good news is with the exception of some people, most people by this point have figured out this is, they're just flat trying to get us pitted against each other. A lot of people have really figured that out. But you know what? I wonder, though, if it isn't partly because, indeed, that is the truth and that a lot of people see it now. But I also wonder, another part of me wonders if maybe isn't because people are just fucking comfortable. You ever think about that? I mean, what ends up saving us from a giant race war in the end may be the fact that people are just too comfortable. They like In-N-Out Burger and TV and cable and sports on Sunday and, the paper in the morning, everything. I just don't think people want to give all that up enough to have a race war. I take small solace in that. It may be small, but I take it anyway. I mean, again, I don't think I'm not trying to really be funny or make a lot of the situation. It is serious. They are going forward with everything I've been saying they're going forward with for forever. But at the same time, I think we do have people who are not buying into it and people who are buying into it. But I think people are just too complacent and too happy and fat, and myself included, to really get off their ass and do anything. So you can probably take small solace in that. But we were at a gas station. And the car battery was dead. Needed to jump. Opened the hood. Kind of stood there with the jumper cables. And as soon as we did it, a black lady says, "Hey, you guys need to jump?" We're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we do. Thank you so much." So she pulls up there and I hear this other black lady in the car going, "We ain't got time to help them. We gotta go." Running her mouth, and we gotta go, this, that, and the other. And she's like, no, we got time. And she gets over there and gets it started. And she's like, are y'all from here? We're like, yeah, we're from here. We live here. She's like, see, people from here help each other. That's what we do, don't we? We're like, yeah, we sure do. And she got in her car and left. And was that black lady looking at me like I was some white terrorist? No, hell no, absolutely not. Was I looking at her like some crackhead murderer that was going to stab me in the neck, shank me in the neck with a fucking straw or something? Absolutely not. So they can try and do all this stuff all day long, but it's up to us whether or not we go along with it or not. And as I said, the good news is what I'm seeing, people aren't buying into it. They know they're starting to figure out what's going on. But again, there's another part of me says, well, maybe people are just too complacent to do anything. I don't know. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. Maybe in the end, our laziness and complacency will be what ends up saving us from this stuff. But they're going to keep pushing to do it either way. It's all divide and conquer, and it's all the way to try and stir up civil distress so they can launch all these contingencies they've been planning for years and years and years. All right, let's see what we got. Mysterious weather-changing machine used for secret solstice festival in Iceland. British scientists came to Iceland with a machine that reportedly keeps the weather temporarily sunny and dry, and it was used for the secret solstice festival. This here reports that this is actually the second year the scientists have come here with the express purpose of ensuring good weather at the festival. While it's unknown how the machine works, it allegedly changes the air pressure in the area for a limited time, thereby reducing the chances that clouds will gather. So it's like an Oregon cloudbuster thing. Jacob Freeman Magnuson, one of the organizers of Secret Solstice, would not comment in detail about what the device is or how it works the way it does. Last year, it was speculated that the device in question could be a cloudbuster. There we go. A device invented by Wilhelm Reich that purportedly utilized cosmic orgone engineering in order to disperse clouds. The sad part of it is that you can actually produce orgone energy with your mind, and you can actually do the same exact cloud busting thing with your mind by looking at clouds and concentrating focus on them, and you can make them break up and dissipate. I've seen it happen. I've seen people do it. It's possible. So I've never put a lot of stock in those orgone generators, but at the same time, my point is it proves that, you know, there are so many people out there, folks, that think that any kind of weather modification, anything to modify the weather is a fucking fairy tale. And yet they have been talking about weather modification in college textbooks and high school textbooks for decades. It's been an admitted fact for decades that we use silver iodine to cloud seed the North Vietnamese, to flood out the Ho Chi Minh Trail during Vietnam. They've been using weather as a weapon for decades. But yet, if you try to have a conversation or tell people about weather modification going on right now in your own skies, they look at you like you're out of your mind. And that is what keeps us in a state of arrested development. This thing where people just, it's like people stay in a state of arrested development, they still think we're in the land we were 20 years ago or something. They can't wrap their mind around just how far technology's come, because to them, technology is as good as whatever their newest phone or laptop or TV is. You know, that's the pinnacle of technology to most people. So if people go out and buy a new Mac laptop or a new TV, to them, that's the pinnacle of technology currently. Or a new gaming system or something. And it's just amazing that people they don't know why they should care about this stuff. They don't know why they should be informed about it. Because when you're uninformed about things, that allows the people who believe that you have a limited scope of what you'll believe is possible, can get away with a lot more things. That's why it's important. Will wars soon be fought in space? Pentagon unveils plans for Operations Center to protect satellites from attack. Now, this is exactly what I've been telling you about. The coming space wars. And just like Dr. Werner von Braun talked about, the phony threat of killer asteroids would be used as one of the explanations to get the people of the world behind the weaponization of space. So the fact that they are announcing this right on the top of all these stories about killer asteroids are coming out, we see this is absolutely not a coincidence, and Dr. von Braun again was right in his prediction. The Pentagon will open a space war center in 6 months to counter threats from China and Russia in Earth orbit. All U.S. satellites will be monitored from the Operations Center. The first time all the nation's spy and military satellites will be tracked from a single location. It's understood that the center, designed to protect U.S. space assets, is a response to anti-satellite tests by China. The announcement was made by U.S. Deputy Defense Secretary Robert Work yesterday at the Geospatial Intelligence 2015 Symposium in Washington. According to Defense One, he said that if an adversary were able to take space away from us, reconnaissance efforts in potential conflict zones would be critically weakened. And of course, space-based weapons have been going up. How much has been spent on these has gone up since 2008, since the first term in the Obama administration. Every year they've progressively been spending more and more and more. And again, not a coincidence that this is happening at the same time they're telling us about the killer asteroid thing. They have to sell us on external threats, so we'll get behind doing away with the space-based treaty bans and testing weapons in space. And once they neutralize the supposed threat that necessitates these space-based weapons, you would think we don't need those anymore. No. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to leave them there. And then they're going to turn them around, and they're not going to be fighting external threats anymore. They're going to point them back down at the ground and do away with internal threats on the surface of the earth. any of these pesky right-wing terrorists that may be causing problems from, well, they'll just zap them from space. They've been hinting about this over and over again in recent movies. And now it's going forward. And this is proof of it. So again, not a coincidence this is happening as you're hearing stories of supposed killer asteroids and whatnot. Bones of exotic macaws reveal early rise of trade hierarchy in Chaco Canyon. Yet another article, ladies and gentlemen, proving that what I found and talked about in Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 2, another thing here, because I have been one of the only people that have been putting out there that Chaco Canyon is definitely much older than they tell us it is and was occupied farther back. They say it was really recently in history, and everything just points farther back. And my opinion of after going there and looking at all the information, whatever was inhabiting this place was of a significant religious importance and something that united all known religions of the world together at that time, because they have found evidence of every known religion in the world in artifacts at Chaco Canyon. People were coming from thousands of miles away to basically perform religious ceremonies like the breaking of these pottery pieces and whatnot. And now they have found macaws, birds, thousands of miles away. Macaws are generally found in central Mexico, South America, and we know there's an ancient road that goes out of Chaco Canyon into Mexico all the way down to South America. It's been discovered. But the key point here is that when they did analysis on these bones, they found that these macaw bones were at least 1,500 years older than when they thought anyone was even at Chaco Canyon. Because, see, they haven't been able to test anything, rocks, or because the rocks were formed, who knows, millions of years ago or whatever. So they haven't really had much organic material to date at Chaco Canyon because, as I talk about in the film, strangely, even though it was occupied for many, many, many years, there are no burials. There are only just a few burials that have ever been found at Chaco Canyon, when, if it had been occupied for as long as it said it was occupied, there should have been thousands of graves there with bodies in them. So now they have the ability to be able to test these macaw skeletons. This is pushing back those dates yet again, folks. And it's funny how this always comes out after I cover it in a film. A new look at some unusual remains found in New Mexico's Chaco Canyon may change our understanding of when and how the culture of the ancestral Puebloans first felt the stirrings of economic and social complexity. According to new research, the remains of more than a dozen scarlet macaws, tropical birds whose remains were unearthed at Chaco, turn out to be centuries older than was originally thought, suggesting that the long-distance trade that brought them there likely arose hundreds of years earlier than many archaeologists believed. What's more, researchers say Chaco's trade in colorful birds and other exotic goods from Mesoamerica, such as turquoise and chocolate, required not just an extensive network, but also a degree of social hierarchy, because such prized items were likely controlled by a ceremonial elite. See, that's what leads me to believe, they're basically, these macaws were probably brought there as a ceremonial offering. Now, why would you bring an exotic bird like that, specifically from that area of Mexico, where there is things like the pyramid that's dedicated to the Quetzalcoatl pyramid near the volcano that he was last seen flying into on a Vimana flying machine, saying he'd return one day? I've seen a lot of evidence from going to Chaco Canyon and examining a lot of these artifacts that whoever this Quetzalcoatl character was, he may have inhabited Chaco Canyon for a period of time. And I think this goes a long way to prove that. I mean, how they don't offer an explanation here, but it'd be very difficult to traverse across land back in those days with an exotic bird in a cage that many miles from, South America or whatever, all the way to Chaco Canyon. I mean, it would seem almost impossible, wouldn't it? So did these people have a transportation method different than what we know about? It's a very interesting question. Gold sun disk from the time of Stonehenge revealed to the public. For the first time, an early Bronze Age sun disk from Monkton Fairley in Wiltshire, UK, is being exhibited for public view at the Wiltshire Museum in time for this year's summer solstice. It is one of only 6 sun disk finds and is one of the earliest metal objects found in Britain. Made in about 2400 BC, soon after the Saracen stones were erected at Stonehenge, it is thought to represent the sun. The sun disk was initially found in 1947 in a burial mound. Yet again, another mound. Weren't any Native American Indians around there, so why would a sun disk be found in a mound if there weren't any Native Americans that were in that area of Wiltshire in the UK? Again, as I've talked about, these Amorites, these guys who went all over who traversed the globe. It took on different names depending on what time periods they were inhabiting whatever particular lands they were associated with. From the Berbers to the Celts to the Vikings, etc., etc. Very fascinating. Thought to have been built just after the construction of Stonehenge. Well, to me, it kind of looks like, if you're looking at it from the top, this gold disc looks like if you were looking at Stonehenge from the air. That's what it looks like to me. That's what I think this is. But of course, they're not going to say that. They don't want you making those kind of connections now, do they? That wouldn't be very good for their agenda, now would it? All right, what else do we have here? This is from Forbes. New St. Louis Rams Stadium may be built on ancient Native American city. A $1 billion plan to build a new stadium for the St. Louis Rams NFL team has archaeologists and Native Americans up in arms because its proposed riverfront location just a few blocks northwest of the current Edward Jones Dome. The remains of 24 earthen mounds dot the Mississippi River. While the mounds were flattened in the 1800s to accommodate the rise of St. Louis as an urban center, underneath the buildings and parking lots is a 900-year-old Native American town. Across the river in Illinois, the site of Cahokia is much better known. Currently a 3.5 square mile historic park, Cahokia boasts over 80 mounds and decades of archaeological research that has revealed a grand plaza, mass burials, sacrificial victims, and a unique copper workshop. Right, because again, the Amorites were taking that copper from Michigan, and they had a trade network all through the South, and it went down to Louisiana, and they put it on ships and took it back over to the Middle East. Due to differences in funding and state laws about development, though, Cahokia's sister city in Missouri is not well understood. Now, here's where the real truth of it comes out. Archaeologist Joe Harrell told St. Louis Public Radio that he is certain that ancient Native American artifacts will be found if the building project goes forward, even though the project will use state bonds to finance a portion of it. Because the project will be on private land and has no federal funding, in the state of Missouri, developers are not required to call in archaeologists. Neither Hall nor Everett Waller, chairman of the Osage Minerals Council, who spoke with Indian Country Today Media Network, wants to see plans for the stadium completely shelved. But both suggested the stadium proposed task force take another look at possible locations and factor in money to do archaeological surveys first. So that's exactly why they chose to do it that way. I mean, there are plenty of sites. I went to St. Louis. I went to Cahokia at the end of 2013, and there are all kinds of sites around the outlying area of St. Louis where they could put this stadium. But see, they always want to put it on something that they're trying to cover up. Why does it have to be right there where these ancient mounds and sites are? Well, how come those weren't preserved when Cahokia was? 9 times out of 10, it's the same reason why they build a lake to cover up part of the rock wall or to cover up part of what in the Llano Uplift or any other ancient sites that have had lakes built on top of them, from Muscle Shoals in Alabama, all across the whole country. Anytime they find anything that doesn't jive with their narrative, they build a lake or a stadium or something else on it. They know full well what's there. But again, they're trying to cover up history and keep this stuff covered up. I mean, why not just, build a little park and rebuild those mounds and have it right next to the stadium and call it the Mound Stadium? No, then we couldn't sell the rights of the name of the stadium to some big corporation for billions of dollars. Okay, yeah, never mind that. Footprints uncovered off British Columbia coast could be the oldest in North America. More than 13,000 years ago, 2 adults and a child walked around a fire pit on Calvert Island off the coast of British Columbia. The footprints they left in soft clay near the shore were soon covered with black sand, which hid them until a team of archaeologists, led by Dr. Daryl Fedge and Dr. Duncan McLaren, unearthed them recently, exposing what are believed to be the oldest footprints ever found in North America. The find adds to a growing body of evidence that the first people didn't arrive in the Americas via an ice-free corridor east of the Rockies 12,000 years ago, but rather a route down the Pacific coast much earlier. It makes the hair on the back of your head stand up, Dr. McLaren said, the moment the archaeologists from the Hakai Institute and the University of Victoria made their discovery. When we started finding them, the excitement in the air was electric. It was really quite amazing. There was no doubt in my mind what we were finding. It was just really cool. The first find was made and the pit was closed at the end of the season before radiocarbon dating was done. Over the winter, they got their first evidence they were looking at something extremely old. The dating came back to 13,200 years. So that was probably just at the time period pre-flood. Again, there goes that narrative of the Bering Strait land bridge gets torn down more and more every day, doesn't it? But that won't stop even, people like these fundamentalists from saying, the Earth's only 8,000 years and dinosaurs are a lie and whatever else. It's hilarious. Well, I think that was just about all I wanted to talk about. I think there might have been more of the stuff that we talked about in the other show, but I think that's about it for this one. Please go to our website, theglobalreality.com. Make a contribution there to our work and help us keep this show freely flowing to everybody out there. I want to thank you for tuning in. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you. We'll see you next time. Have a great one. Take care.